Joined now by Tiger Brands Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Mary Jane Murifi, who joins me now to talk to us. Thank you so much for coming through, Mary Jane. So it appears to me that you as Tiger Brands have pretty much accepted that you will have to be party to this class action lawsuit. And am I correct in assuming that you're not defending?
Well, the company did not, kind of defend or object to this. We have decided that we will work and cooperate with the class action suit lawyers and allow for the legal process to take place. Our intention is to act as a responsible corporate citizen and ensure that those who believe that they are legitimate claimants, once liability has been established, to have an opportunity to participate in this process that will hopefully bring closure to those impacted.
So talk to me about the numbers then. How big do you expect this class action lawsuit to be in terms of the number of people that may end up being party to it, but also in terms of the quantum of money that it could involve?
We at this stage do not know how many people will step forward. The process, as I said, it's a long process. We have shortened it by working closely with the lawyers to ensure that the class action is certified, which is step number one. Once that, which has now been certified, the second stage is the communication campaign to really call for those individuals who believe that they have a legitimate claim to come forward. For those who believe that they don't want to be party to this, they have to physically opt out to say they don't want to be part of that. The next stage of that would be then we still haven't received a summons, so a summons needs to be issued to Tiger Brands. And then you go through the process where the courts will determine whether the classes, there are 4 classes, whether they go forward or not. Those that can go forward will then follow the process where people who believe they belong to one of those classes will have to opt in. So they will have to say, I now want to be represented by these lawyers. So it's a long, complicated legal process.
What's your expectation in as far as compensation for people who lost loved ones? I mean, we're talking over 200 people that died.
Liability has to be determined first. This has not been done yet. And before liability can be determined, summonses have to be issued. The legal process then has to determine, kind of what level each individual will have to put their case forward. That is, provided that liability has been established, they have to provide evidence of how they have been impacted. And then once that has been determined, the courts will then determine the level of compensation for each of those classes, but also each of those individuals. It's an individual rather than a collective.
A question that you seem to have not answered at all as Tiger Brands, Mary Jane, is the question of how exactly that plant in Polokwane got contaminated with the results that we saw, the world's biggest listeriosis outbreak ever. You've not answered that question.
We have indicated that we have done extensive review. We brought in some international and local experts to really help us find out how listeriosis could have come into our facility. Listeriosis is a bacteria that is available everywhere in the environment. It's in the soil, it's in the water, it's on food, fresh fruit and veg. So it's easy to transport that. So to date we have not been able to pinpoint exactly how it could have come into our facility. So we have spent the time to really ensure that we safeguard our facility against that. If it is human movement that actually brings this, we have put in place measures to ensure that there is the sanitization of individuals and their equipment that is coming into our facility to minimize the likelihood of this happening again.
How damaging has it been to the brand? I imagine that it must be really damaging to you.
Well, we've had been off shelf since March the 4th. We have now started bringing product back on shelf. So we were off shelf for 9 months. Clearly that would have had an impact. we recognize that we are going to have to work very closely with our consumers to convince them that the work that we have done to rehabilitate our facilities, to educate and train our employees, and to really work with industry and government to ensure that we have legislation that is robust, that brings us to world class. Hopefully with that, they will begin to we will begin to regain their trust, and our products will become those trusted and loved products by consumers again.
Mary Jane Murife, thank you so much for coming through and talking to me. She is the Tiger Brands Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Mary Jane Murife, talking